Hello, good morning, everybody, and thank you again for joining us for this research coffee event. My name is Antoneta Granic, and I am a researcher at Newcastle University and the NIHR Newcastle Biomedical Research Center, or Newcastle BRC for short. Together with my colleague, Dr. Chris Hurst, I would like to tell you a little bit about a pilot study that our research group completed recently. The study is called MIlkMAN, which is a short name for Milk Intervention Muscle Aging. Next slide, please. Okay, so first, to tell you a little bit who we are and what we do, what our research is about. Both Chris and I, here marked with a red star, are members of the AGE research group led by Professor Antoneta. That's first picture, first row. She is a professor of geriatric medicine or old people's medicine and director of the Newcastle BRC. Other two core members of MIlkMAN team who conducted this study with us, their geriatrician, Dr. Tori Asprey, first row, second picture, and health psychologist, Ms. Laurel Dismore, second row, third picture. For MIlkMAN, we also collaborated with our colleagues from the Faculty of Medicine, Professor Emma Stevenson and her student, Evie Hayes. AGE Research Group is a multidisciplinary research team with knowledge and skills spanning from biology of aging, clinical and observational studies for older people, epidemiology of aging, which is a study of how people age and what influences the aging process, to nutrition and biostatistics. Among others, our research interest is to understand how skeletal muscle ages, how diseases and other factors influence muscle aging, and what can be done to treat and prevent poor muscle health to improve the quality of life in older adults. If you would like to know more about us and our research, you can visit our website, and the link is on your screen, on the bottom of your screen. Next slide, please. Okay, so why this study? Why MIlkMAN? Poor muscle health is characterized by loss of muscle mass and function, which is called sarcopenia. It's a term that's come from two Greek words. Sarc means flesh and penia means poverty, in essence, poverty of flesh. Unfortunately, sarcopenia is common in older adults and can lead to poor health, such as frailty, disability, increased risk of falls, hospitalization, and loss of independence. Some changes in muscle with aging are unavoidable. We all lose muscle size and muscle quality. However, sarcopenia is a skeletal muscle disorder that can be made worse by chronic diseases, poor lifestyle, especially inactivity and poor diet that is low in protein and other nutrients needed to preserve and build our muscles. From previous research, we know that resistant exercise, and Chris is going to tell you more about what resistant exercise is, with protein supplementation can be effective in increasing muscle strength, mass, and function, even in very frail older adults. However, what is lacking is good evidence and good research for the benefits of whole foods that are rich in nutrients for muscle health. So we thought that the solution to sarcopenia problem worth investigating may be a whole food and not a dietary supplement approach in combination with resistant exercise. So for whole food, we chose milk for several reasons. First, milk is full of nutrients such as high quality protein, especially whey, vitamins, minerals, good fats, and a range of the bioactive components that together may be beneficial for aging muscle. Second, benefits of milk for building muscle proteins and muscle cells. have been shown in studies with young adults and athletes that use milk as a recovery drink for muscle soreness and to reduce damage after exercise. And third, milk is relatively available, readily available and relatively cheap whole food, needs very little preparation, and older adults, meaning those who like it and can tolerate it, are frequent consumers. Next slide, please. So to investigate whether our solution for better muscle health with aging is feasible and acceptable to older adults, we first needed to conduct a pilot study to answer several questions. First, is an intervention with resistant exercise followed by milk intake and conducted in a local gym something that older adults age 65 and over would do and complete? What do they think about it? What motivates them to stay in the study? Would they continue on their own after the study is completed? And if not, why not? And importantly, our goal was also to collect essential data that will aid us in designing future studies, future bigger studies. On your right, you can see a couple of pictures of our Happy MIlkMAN participants. And now over to Chris, who is going to tell you a little bit more about how we answered these questions and what we have found. Thank you. Next slide, please.
Sorry, thanks, Antoneta. Thanks, Charlie, for the introduction as well. So just to give a little bit of a background and kind of context to the study and how we answered the questions that Antoneta has just outlined. So we began by sending 400 letters out via some GP surgeries in the North Tyneside area to potential participants, so some information sheets describing the study and what they would be asked to do, how much commitment this would involve, and then some contact details to get in touch with us if these people were happy to find out more and might be interested in the study, kind of thing. So we sent those letters out first. We got a number of people who contacted us and were interested in taking part. So we gave them a ring and we arranged to go and see them in their own home, kind of thing, where we discussed exactly what the study involved and gave them some more information. We asked them some basic questions to make sure they were eligible to take part in the study. So what medications they were on, which was potentially important for us, which medical conditions they might have had. And then we also measured their grip strength as well. So the little diagram in the kind of the middle of the screen on the left is, you can see the hand and somebody measuring the grip strength there. So that's a really good marker for us and is associated with lots of different health outcomes, but it also provides us with a good indication of your overall strength, kind of thing. So we did these home visits, and then ultimately we got to 30 participants who were aged 65 to 80, I think. 80, 81 was the oldest participant, so a good range of ages, all 65 plus, who were happy to take part in the study. So once we had our 30, what we did is we divided them into 3 groups via a computer program to randomly allocate them. So we had 3 groups, as you'll see there. So all 30 participants performed exercise, which I'm going to talk about and just outline in a second. So we had 10 participants who drank whole milk. We had 10 participants who drank skim milk. And then we had a control group of 10 participants who drank cranberry juice. So the control group basically gave us a group who were consuming the same calories, but without the protein intake. So the protein content in the milk is the main thing we were interested in. So that's why we had a comparative of the cranberry juice without the protein. So following that, we then had our 3 groups with 10 people in each. We went to see them all again at home for around 60 to 70 minutes, where we collected a range of information from them there at baseline. So we asked them questions about their lifestyle, alcohol, sleep, diet, smoking, physical activity. We asked them about the medication they take. We asked them about medical conditions they had, just so we could get a real big, a comprehensive picture of these people, their general health, their cognitive function, lots of questionnaires like that. And then we did some physical measures as well. So we timed how long it takes them to get up and down from a chair 5 times. So that's the chair stand test. Hand grip strength again. And then we did things like balance, some basic balance tests, just things like that. So that was the home visit. And then after that, everybody attended the gym for 6 weeks, twice a week. So RE is the resistance exercise. So all 30 participants attended the gym 6 weeks, twice a week. So that was just a kind of council leisure centre in North Tyneside, a fairly bog standard gym that either you'll have been in before or you may have seen pictures of before, with treadmills, bikes and weight machines kind of thing. So fairly standard council local authority gym we used. So all the participants did the same exercise, individually tailored to their capability. So there were 4 exercises that we asked the participants to do in every session. There were 2 exercises for the upper body, so one for the chest and one for the back muscles, and then there were 2 exercises for the lower body, so one for the hamstrings at the back, and then one for the quadriceps at the front of the upper leg. So they did the same exercises, and roughly we did 3 lots of 10 efforts on each exercise every session. Then after the exercise, all the participants consumed their drink, depending on which group they were allocated to, either whole milk, skim milk, or cranberry juice. And we asked them to drink 500 millilitres of drink immediately after the exercise in around about 45 minutes, the 45 minutes after the exercise. And then we also provided them with another 500 millilitres to consume in the next 4 to 5 hours at home. So they were roughly consuming, sorry, not roughly, they were exactly consuming a litre of milk or a litre of juice every time they exercised, so twice a week for 6 weeks. Then after the exercise period for the 6 weeks, we went to see all the participants at home again, and we carried out the same sort of tests, chair stand, hand grip, balance, then asked all the cognitive questions, the lifestyle questions, and then we also asked some questions about how they'd found the study, what they'd enjoyed and not enjoyed kind of thing. So there's a whistle-stop tour of what the study involved kind of thing. Charlie, if you can put the next slide, please. Okay, so what did we find? Sorry, excuse me. In terms of the main results, so the first thing that we were interested in was, would people do what we wanted them to do in this study? So would they come to a gym in the community twice a week? Would they keep coming for 6 weeks? Would they drink the drinks that we asked them to? So they were the main things that we wanted to find out. So the headline news in the first line at the top, you'll notice there, 97% completed the study. So one participant dropped out. He had an injury that he'd sustained prior to the study, which he thought would be okay, but actually limited his participation. So he withdrew within the study period. We only had 30. It was only a small pilot study for a short duration of 6 weeks. So not a massive sample size, but 97% who started completed the study. 26 of the 29 said that their experience in the study was excellent or very good, and they found that it was easy to do what we asked them to. 93% said it was easy or very easy to be committed to drink the drink and do the exercise. So over the course of 6 weeks, every participant was asked to drink 12 litres of milk or juice. So that was 1 litre for every exercise session. And on average, they consumed 11.6 litres. So nearly everybody was drinking all of the juice or milk at the end of every session, with a few exceptions kind of thing. 27 of the 29 participants found that it was very easy to drink the drink after the exercise. At the beginning, we were a little bit concerned because we were asking them to drink a lot immediately after the exercise, but actually the participants suggested that they found that rewarding and it was nice and refreshing from being in the gym. So maybe because they'd worked hard, they were a little bit hot, they were ready for a drink, so they didn't find any difficulty whatsoever in consuming a beverage after the exercise, whether it was milk or cranberry juice. And in terms of the exercise specifically, so we worked our participants quite hard because we know that it's quite easy for the exercise to be done at an intensity that's not as effective as it can be. So we made sure we worked them quite hard. 29 of the 30 participants did over 10 sessions out of the 12. like every study like this, there are always people that miss some sessions for various reasons, whether it's illness or other commitments. So 29 completed more than 10, and that was our target really. And on average, 29 of them, of the 30, rated the exercise as being somewhat hard or hard. So we were working our participants quite hard and making them put some effort in the training sessions. Thank you. Next one, please. So just to mention the physical performance, because ultimately the exercise is geared towards to improve in physical performance. So although this wasn't primarily what we were interested in, we only trained the participants for 6 weeks, twice a week. So we wouldn't expect huge changes in that time period. As I said earlier, it was more about the feasibility in delivering this intervention in the community. But actually what we did find was that based on grip strength, on average, everybody was about 1 kilogram stronger. And in terms of the chair rise performance, it was around about 2 seconds faster. So because we only had a small sample size, it's difficult for us to say that the drinks had a huge influence, and being able to kind of take that away from the exercise, the influence of the exercise alone. One thing I did mean to say actually earlier on, that all the exercise was supervised. So I supervised every exercise session. So we were confident that the participants were safe and that they were doing what we wanted them to, specifically, technically with the exercise, to be able to get the maximum benefit from it. The physical performance was quite good at the start, so we wouldn't have expected enormous changes, but in 6 weeks the improvements were small but encouraging really. So as it says at the bottom, the headline news was a slight improvement in physical function after 6 weeks. Okay, final one on results, please, Tony. Yeah, so this was some of the stuff that we were actually as well. Talked about feasibility very well. The compliance to drink was excellent also. But what we really wanted to try and understand at the end of the study was what contributed to this kind of thing. Why did participants keep coming, enjoy, so forth? So some participants told us that they found improved health and fitness, and they noticed that they found either they could do more at home, the housework, for example, or gardening, they were finding that easier. Walking down the stairs without using the banister, and they just felt a general, they had more strength and more stamina. Obviously this wasn't for everybody, but some participants did make those comments. And another motivator was that people found that they were learning as well. They were picking up knowledge about how your muscles age, what happens to your muscles. They were learning about exercise, how to do exercise safely. So we did, at the end of the study, provide the participants with some maintain the exercise if they wanted to, and some guidelines. Some did find that they learned something and they felt that was beneficial. One of the biggest ones actually was the next one, social bonding and well-being. They were really important, probably the most important of them all actually. So just a couple of quotes that I've particularly pulled out. Sorry, while I read this. One of the participants noted, "I've developed friendships that will last. I made a new friend, and friends are not easy to make at my age." So there were a lot of positive comments about the social bonding and well-being. So all the participants exercised in small groups, kind of between 2 and 4 participants usually, with kind of the same people every exercise session. So they did build up some bonds while they were in the gym together over the 6-week period. They also found that they had a bit more energy, less pain, and a better appetite. Enjoy the environment, and found that having somebody to supervise the exercise was really beneficial for them. It helped them feel safe and made them feel more confident in the gym environment. just to mention the barriers, the cost to keep coming to the gym was a problem for people. There were some people didn't like the gym environment. Some people were still kind of worried about injuring themselves if they were in the gym on their own and they didn't have the support. So that's why they wouldn't continue. They didn't want to do it alone if the other person they'd been exercising with wasn't going to continue. And then some of the participants were also concerned about if they were drinking milk to gain weight and to increase their cholesterol and things like that. So this was kind of a lot of information. Which is definitely. Thank you, Charlie. Next one, please.
I think that might be the last of your slides.
Oh, okay.
Just to
sorry.
say.
I thought there was another one. Yes, sorry. Finally, that was the last bit. Just a huge thank you to all our participants to get that on record again. That without their effort, we wouldn't have learned any of this really. So just another kind of public thank you to all of those.
And I think a lovely way to be able to end that is actually to hear from a couple of the participants from the study. So this is a short video of Sheila and John, who were participants on the MIlkMAN study, so you can hear what they thought about it as well.
My experience was, from start to finish, it was absolutely amazing. And what did it even more than the exercise and feeling stronger for the people, from you, Antoneta, to Chris, to Laurel, to Ellie, to my favourite person in the whole world, my training partner, it has just been miraculous. It was lovely, and I feel so much better and so much stronger than I did before I started. And being a member of the gym anyway, but doing very different kinds of exercises, I didn't think these exercises would be helpful, but oh boy, they have been, you know, really, really good, really good.
I've never done this before in the gym, so this was a completely new experience for me. Something I looked forward to though, and I couldn't believe how much I enjoyed it. The physical part of it I thoroughly enjoyed. As Sheila says, we gelled, we were very lucky, we gelled together, so we really enjoyed that part of it as well. And the team were brilliant, they really were kind, pleasant, kind. And at the end of it, I felt so much stronger mentally as well as physically, and I'm particularly pleased that because I have scoliosis and pain in the neck, that pain disappeared after a few weeks, and it's still no longer there. That is a tremendous bonus.
You're a lot straighter than you were, a lot big difference. Yeah, absolutely, amazing.
Hello everyone. Charlie's asked me to help out in this next session. My name is Kasia Korowska. I'm the patient public involvement manager for the BRC. Thank you to Antoneta and Chris for that great presentation. I know that the sound wasn't great always at the end there, so hopefully everyone you could at least see the slide. We're going to have a Q&A after this next little session, which is what we're gonna do now is go out into some breakout groups. Where we recognise that the MIlkMAN study happened pre-COVID, and we've all been experiencing lockdown personally, and we're really keen to understand what are the barriers and motivators to people exercising during lockdown. We asked this question ahead of this coffee morning on the Voice platform and also on the Voice's Facebook page. And so on this slide, you can see here are some of the key themes that came out of those online discussions before today. So motivators are feeling like you're seeing an improvement in the exercise. Some people are saying they just really enjoy exercise and were not finding any challenges during lockdown. But some of the barriers people said that they're facing at the minute is motivation to exercise. It's incredibly stressful for many of us at the minute. A lack of space indoors exercising was also a barrier. A lot of people talking about being in a flat and being very close, living very closely to others and not wanting to, once again, on that last point, make too much noise and being considerate of our neighbours. So those are some of the things that came out on the online discussion before today. but we're going to, Charlie is going to be putting us all into breakout rooms now. There'll be around 5 people in each room, and we're asking you to discuss that question for 10 minutes. What are the barriers and motivators to exercising now during lockdown? The breakout rooms will not be recorded. It's the one part of this event that won't be recorded. You don't need to touch anything at all. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. So Charlie will be sending us into the room and then bringing us back. There'll be a little note. We're having 10 minutes and Charlie will put up a notice saying 2 minutes to go before the end of the discussion. And Charlie is going to unmute us all now. So you won't even have to unmute yourself, hopefully, when you're in that breakout room. If you don't wish to take part in the discussion, please just stay silent or mute yourself if you know how to do that. And hopefully Charlie is ready to send us in now. Charlie?
Okay, so I think everyone's back in the room now from the breakout rooms. You've all been muted again, so don't worry about that. But do keep in mind, we are recording this bit now, so if you don't want to be recorded, just turn off your camera. So it'd be great if we could get a couple of groups maybe to feedback some of the things that they were talking about. So I know Akasha was eager to start. So we'll get Kasha to feedback from her group. And then if anyone else wants to share some of the things that they were talking about, if you just pop in the chat that you're happy to talk, then I can unmute you from here, and you can share some of the things that you talked about. But we'll start with Kasha, if she wants to share what her group was talking about.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Charlie. In hindsight, 10 minutes wasn't probably long enough. We'd only kind of introduced and given a quick flavour of what we'd all been experiencing in terms of exercise, what we did before and what we did after. But then we talked about what's something that the research group can think about if they're going to involve exercise activity in future research studies. And I think it was Pam who suggested maybe some equipment could be sent to participants. Particularly, we talked about resistant bands being quite light, very, very postable, and kind of offering a good range of body exercises. And we were wondering, I suppose a bit of a question to Antoneta and Chris, could they see were resistance bands used, and would they be a good thing to consider for other exercise related studies? That's it.
That's great. Antoneta or Chris, do you want to comment on anything that was talked about in that group?
I'll just say quickly that the resistance bands are an excellent tool. So that's definitely a good suggestion. I think it's a viable option. That they're fairly cheap to buy, so it's affordable, and provided we support people so that they know how to use them correctly, then they can be a really valuable tool, definitely, yeah.
So I can see Barry is interested in feeding back from their group, so I'll just unmute you there, so you can go ahead and speak.
Hi, so some things that I got from our group, it was clear that there was a good time now to exercise. Obviously, a lot of people working from home. Obviously, when you're at home, you're seeing a lot of things that perhaps need to be done around the house. So the sort of general domestic exercise of, you know, gardening and tidying up the house is certainly one area that I've seen an increase in exercise. Also, I understand that nationally a lot more people have been buying bikes, so it would indicate that there is a lot more people doing exercise. We talked about different types of exercise, what exactly was resistance exercise. We talked about walking and power walking, which was quite keen with people. We also talked about how, or at least from my point of view, how food was a bit of a difficulty, diet was a bit of a difficulty, because at the moment, if you're watching the news every day and it comes across as kind of very negative, it doesn't put you in the best of moods to, you know, have the best of diet. Also, alcohol. Every day now is a weekend, and perhaps, you know, too much alcohol, not such a good idea. But certainly the amount of exercise, the amount of activity that people in the group were doing was more than previously. It'd be nice to see if that was carried on.
Right. Okay, so Antoneta, anything on that? And then I think we'll have time for one more.
Yes, so I would say that as kind of a barrier we mentioned in our group for self-motivation, and maybe having a motivator buddy or even your physio who is checking on you to see, are you doing exercises at home that you're supposed to do for your muscle health, especially if you have underlying muscle condition that benefits from regular exercise. It's also been mentioned in walking outside. If you live next to a beauty spot like coastline, that it's a huge motivator. And then later on, calling people what you have seen and experienced is also very positive, sharing this experience. Also, it's been mentioned that having a dog as a companion is another motivator that helps you get out, because then you tailor your activity to your dog's needs. And let me see, maybe having some kind of a teleconferencing with other people that can help you motivate in completing exercise daily. And the other barrier was not having, which has been mentioned previously, not having the right equipment to exercise and not having enough space to utilize this equipment. Yeah, that's it.
Great. So I think we've got time for one more. So John Telfer, you expressed an interest in your group. So I'll just unmute you there. So you should be able to go ahead and feedback from your group now.
Well, there was just one thing I was very keen to mention that was said in our group, was something about in future it might be a good idea to encourage employers to pay for things like proper computer chairs and holders, stands for computers. And I think that would be a very good idea, because I personally have found it really difficult, just sitting in front of my computer. I'd much rather sit in an easy chair. That's all the one thing I wanted to say.
Antoneta and Chris, anything to feedback from that?
I mean, all I would say in response to that is I absolutely agree, and I think more broadly, employers need to do more to support physical activity in the workplace, or the things that that has just been mentioned there. I think so. Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more that employers could do. It's convincing them that there are benefits to spending the money that it'll cost them to do those things is the challenge. But some things are starting to slowly change, so hopefully that'll carry on happening.
But I think that it's important, sorry to come back on it, one thing you said, it's important that employers contribute to the workplace. In the workplace, they should contribute to working from home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, when I said workplace, I was meaning your place of work, whether it be home or the office. Yes, but I totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure that we've got time for some questions, because I can see that the chat today has been really, really active. Just to rest assured that everything you've put in the chat, we might not be able to ask all questions, but it will all be saved. We'll be saving this chat. We can summarize some of the key points, and we'll be able to send that out to everyone in an email after the event. So everything that you've put in the chat will be saved, so don't feel like it's been wasted. But I'm going to hand over to Helen, who's hopefully been going through all of the questions that you've been putting in and picking out some of the interesting ones for Chris and Antoneta.
Hi, everybody. I'm Helen. I'm Communications Manager with the NIHR Newcastle BRC. So I've been looking at questions and there's been lots, so thank you very much to everybody who sent something in. As Charlie said, all the questions will be saved, so we can collate these at a later date. So if your question doesn't get answered now, then hopefully we'll be able to do something following this. So I've just picked out a few different things that hopefully Antoneta and Chris can answer, and I know they've been answering as they've gone along, so apologies if I pick up the same thing, but there's been a lot and it's hard to keep up with it all. But I think one of the main things that comes out was that was it the milk that was an improvement, or the gym specifically? What do you think had the best benefit overall?
Well, I have to kind of point out that this was a small pilot feasibility study. We wanted to see if going to a local gym and then consuming milk after exercise. And as you've seen from Chris' presentation, we asked quite a lot. So to achieve 20 grams of protein that is good for your muscle for building your muscle after exercise, they needed to consume a liter of milk, which is a lot. So this is all about feasibility. And because it's a small study, we had only 30 people, 10 participants in each group. It is impossible to see the effect. And that was not the main goal of the study. We just wanted to see, is this doable and acceptable to older adults, what they think about it, and to learn how to conduct a bigger study. We did see, as you've seen from Chris' presentation, that there was a slight improvement, but we believe that these slight improvements are due to the exercise, because everybody exercised. I think that.
Yeah, so it's very much about the pilot testing it to the information that can then lead to a different study. Mm-hmm. I think some of the other questions related to that as well, such as the number of participants. So again, I think that the answer to that would be, if it was a small group, it's just so that you could get information to lead to further studies. I think there was a lot about milk as well, because people had asked about other types of milk related drink, but that would be things that are suitable for people with lactose intolerance, like nut milks and things without sort of lactose in them, and also whether or not different types like semi-skimmed or skim milk were applicable to the type of effect that you were going for. And I think that maybe on a whole, I think the question would be, if you can't drink milk, or you don't like milk, or you prefer semi-skimmed or skimmed, is that also something that you could drink?
When we compared the composition of skimmed and whole milk, when you look at the protein, it's the same practically. It's just that, of course, because skim milk has less calories, you get less energy, and also with removal of fat, you remove some vitamins that are fat soluble, and also some lipids that we know from other research that may be good for your muscle, that have some other biological function. But at this point, we actually don't know. So we wanted that both our groups consuming milk have a same benefit from getting the same amount of protein. I'm not a big fan of alternative milks, so this is my personal kind of opinion. Studies that compare different brands like rice milk, almond milk, cashew milk, soy milk, do say that what nature makes the best, it's really very hard to mimic, that because milk is a perfect kind of emulsion of everything, and people try to mimic it the best they can. But if you buy, for example, an almond milk, pay attention what is actually in it, because that milky consistency is really hard to achieve. And of course, there are differences in how much protein is in it, what kinds of fat they need to put to make it milky, and stuff like that. But if you are, of course, this is not for people who have lactose intolerance, although there are milks without milk sugars now available. So this is not for, of course, not for everybody. For the protein, if you compare different consistency of different milk types, soy is very close if you think about protein. So there are other sources of good sources of protein. We picked milk because milk has whey, and that type of protein is really good for your muscle because it has smaller proteins which we call amino acids. One of them is leucine. It's really abundant in leucine, and leucine is really good for building muscle cells.
Okay, thank you. I think there was a question around other types of dairy, which I guess sort of links back to the protein. So I hope that's answered that for the person who asked that question. Do we have time for one more, Charlie? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you've got time for maybe one or two more.
Okay. There was questions around vitamin D and whether or not that had an impact on the results and the muscle strength.
So we did ask people what they ate at the beginning of the study and the end of the study. But as I said, this was a pilot. In a bigger study, yes, you will kind of look into other factors to adjust in your analyses and kind of try to tease out what actually is happening and how much effect has milk, how much effect has resistant exercise, and including here vitamin D. We know because milk in the UK is not fortified, milk naturally has some vitamin D, but not much. So that was not something that we, for this pilot, we at this point we considered.
Okay, thank you. And I think maybe just on the practicalities of the drinking milk and exercise, does any time of day have a benefit on protein consumption, and is there any particular reason why before or after might be better or worse for drinking milk in terms of exercise, before or after exercise?
Well, most studies do it, not just in young adults, older adults who did interventions with resistant exercise and protein source, do it after exercise, because resistant exercise is a really powerful stimulus to get your muscle proteins going in kind of building your muscle. And to enhance it, you have to feed your muscle with extra amino acids and proteins. So that's why after exercise, research shows that it's beneficial.
Okay, after. Brilliant, thank you. And is there any particular length, ideal length of exercise?
Chris?
Length of exercise in terms of how many weeks?
No, just in terms of how long per session. What's the
per session? I don't know, really. As much as you fancy, I think, is the most important message. If you fancy doing half an hour, that's great. If you fancy doing an hour, even better. But probably anything's better than nothing, actually. And there's a lot of research now starting to look at exercise snacks, which is kind of do 5 minutes here and then do another 5, rather than doing one big exercise session in the day. Maybe try and just fit 5 minutes in over a period of hours, kind of every hour for so long. So, yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
So I think we are just bang on time there. I hope you've all enjoyed today's session. But other than that, thank you so much for joining. and we'll see you later. So goodbye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.